Hello and welcome to the Sunday Guardian show by Joyita Basu. I'm the editor of the Sunday Guardian. Unlike what I do, my regular shows here, we have a very esteemed guest today. I'm going to talk to Lt Gen P.R. Shankar, who is a retired Director General of Artillery. He is now a professor in the Aerospace Department of Indian Institute of Technology, Madras. He is quite a strategic thinker, and today we are going to pick his brains about what is happening in India-China relations with reference to particularly Sri Lanka as well as the Indian Ocean. Lieutenant General, if you can tell us a little bit about what is your view of what exactly happened with this Chinese spy ship that came to Hambantota. I mean, I think we are pretty clear about that it's definitely a spy ship. Now, what exactly it happened, and apart from that, would you call it a failure on India's on the part of India's diplomacy that India could not stop Sri Lanka from harboring and from hosting this ship? Please, if you can shed some light on this.
Thank you, Madam. Fundamentally, one has to understand why this ship came here, because everything flows from that. This ship probably has come, while we can't put a finger as to why China sent this ship here, there are many reasons for it. It's a spy ship, it's known. It basically is a ship, from what one could make out, which can undertake, tracking satellites and monitoring space launches, and also carry out electronic warfare. So why has it come to Hambantota? If you see, the movement of the ship actually coincided with the American launch of the Minuteman missile. So one reason is it could be tracking the American Minuteman missile, right? That's one. Second, it has come to probably track China's own satellites in space and put them in the orbits. You see, when you have a lot of satellites in space, these have their orbits have to be adjusted, their orientation has to be adjusted, and that has to be done probably from different places, and hence that could be one of the reasons. The third reason could be that, look, it's come here to be in a position to be able to monitor Indian space and missile activities, because all our firings are carried out from Sriharikota or from Chandipur, right? Either the defense or the space launches. So it could come for that also, as probably. But why here at this point of time? Why into Hambantota? Because all this activity could have been better done off high seas also. So if that idea was to spy only exclusively on Indian assets, it could have sailed towards Dhaka, anywhere in the high seas, and you couldn't have stopped it, and it could have done the same thing.
Exactly.
But why has it come to Hambantota? It has come to Hambantota to show presence and to give a loud message to India that, look, we are capable of doing this tomorrow. Okay, right. So now, what has the outcome of the whole story? They've come, spent 6 days, and they've gone back. Now, from many points of view, you could consider it as a failure on India's part to have made so much noise and yet not been able to stop that ship from coming. Okay, I mean, let's be also clear from at the outset that it was beyond China's capability in the position it was to stop that ship from coming. And this fact, I think we also knew, and we also very clear that we cannot stop the ship from coming here. So what has been achieved by all the objections we have raised and conveyed it to China? We made it difficult for China to enter into Indian Ocean, unquestioned. If say 5, 6, 7 months or 8 months back, if such an activity would have happened, you wouldn't have had a say about it. Today, at least, you force the Sri Lanka government to tell the Chinese government to reconsider. That's all Sri Lanka can do. And maybe next time this thing happens, it's more of a deterrent. Okay. So that deterrent has been conveyed to China. So it is difficult for China to operate unquestioned. Operations in Indian Ocean have been deterred to some extent. That's the first. So to that extent, we've I don't think we've lost anything. And the Chinese would feel, despite having been delayed and for the first time China have not been given a clear entry into this area, China might still feel, look, we've pushed our way through. So I think it's more of a detent in a larger sense, that both of us can talk of what has gone right, and both of us, our critics, can talk of what has gone wrong for either side, and we leave it at that.
But
Right.
yeah, you're saying that we have been able to send out a very strong message.
Strong message, yeah. That I think is a very important thing, because till now you could never do that. I mean, as simple as that. At least now you couldn't do that. There is some caution put in China that India will react to anything which China does in this area, which till now we really couldn't do. Right? That's the larger thing about the Yuan Wang. But then it belies a larger question. The larger question is that what is China's interest in the Indian Ocean? Don't you think so?
Yeah, so if I can ask this question, I mean, what is China's not only interest in the Indian Ocean, what is China's strategy in the Indian Ocean, and what are we doing to counter China from basically making Indian Ocean its playing field?
Yeah, that's a very fair question. Let's be very clear. But first, we'll talk of the interests of the Indian Ocean. China has no entry into the Indian Ocean at this point of time except through the Malacca Straits. Okay. Now, unless China is able to dominate the Indian Ocean, safeguard its energy lines back into China, protect its trade routes going to Africa where it has got tremendous interest, and the Middle East where it has got tremendous interest, as also diminish India's influence in the Indian Ocean and the US presence in the Indian Ocean. It is not a superpower, and it needs to do all this to be a superpower. That's the first thing. Secondly, if China has got what we call a two-ocean strategy for global domination. It needs to dominate the Pacific Ocean, and specifically the Western Pacific Ocean, as also the Indian Ocean, to achieve global supremacy or superpower status. While its moves in South China Sea and beyond, Taiwan, etc., cater for the domination of the Western Pacific, it has got no foothold in the Indian Ocean. Right? It needs to get into the Indian Ocean and dominate that area. Now, I'll show you a slide which explains the Indian Ocean, right? Yes. And then we'll see what is, rather than saying what is the Chinese strategy, we will see how Indian Ocean can be dominated at the current, or it's being dominated at the current point of time, and then we'll look at the Chinese strategy. I'll just share a slide with you.
Sure.
Okay, if you have a look at this,
yes,
the Indian Ocean, as you see, it's I'm taking more of the northern part of the Indian Ocean.
Right.
On the west is the African coast. The northern part of the Indian Ocean is naturally the Indian Peninsula, and the eastern part is the Malacca Strait and the Indonesian archipelago. If you see, India has a dominant role in this, and that's why. If you see the world atlas, there's only one ocean which is named after a country,
yes,
and that's the Indian Ocean. No other ocean is named after a particular country. So India's dominant role in the Indian Ocean has to be countered or taken advantage of if Indian Ocean has to be dominated. Now, there's one peculiarity about Indian Ocean which not many people understand. You see this line, blue line which has come up?
Yes.
It comes from Diego Garcia, goes to Maldives, and ends up, the northernmost part is Lakshadweep. Okay. Now this is called the Chagos Archipelago.
All right.
The Chagos Archipelago actually, divides the Indian Ocean into two, the Eastern Indian Ocean and the Western Indian Ocean.
Right.
And any movement through this Chagos Archipelago is constricted. It is like going through a pass or a roadblock, in a road. So this is an important part. Now what happens is, with India and the mainland and Digogashi at the bottom, and if you draw a straight line, China, India, the strategic partnership, and the Andaman Nicobar Islands on the east.
Right.
This triangle gives you control of the eastern, Indian Ocean.
Indian Ocean, right.
So the US Indo-US strategic partnership has to be looked at from this point of view.
Right.
Now, similarly, if you look at it from the western,
I think we need to explain to our readers, I mean viewers, that when we are talking about Diego Garcia, that is actually a US naval base over there. It is actually
That's what I said. That Diego Garcia is a UN naval base, and that's why I said the Indo-US strategic partnership.
Right.
With Diego Garcia as a base and India, the mainland India as a base. Then and the Indian base at Andaman and Nicobar Islands. This completes a triangle of control of the Eastern Indian Ocean.
Right.
Similarly, on the Western Indian Ocean, the Agalaga Islands, which we are developing, where Navy has a presence, has also
in Mauritius, Agalega.
Mauritius, as also the naval bases of US, which are there, in the Gulf, and Diego Garcia, and this, you get a triangle of control over the Western Indian Ocean. Right. Now, if you see this, this controls either side of these two triangles, control either side of the Chagos Archipelago, and with this, you are able to control the entire Indian Ocean or dominate. Okay. Now, what does China want to do?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if you look at it, going from the west, China already has a base at Djibouti.
In Africa.
It is constructed, in the Horn of Africa, right?
Right.
And because it wants to control oil flow from that area. Okay. Again, it is constructing the Gwadar port in Pakistan as part of the CPEC.
Right.
The Gwadar port is the flagship of the CPEC, which is the flagship of the BRI. Right?
Right.
So that is eventually China will take over Gwadar as a base. That's a given. Now the third one, Kyakfu, which is at Myanmar, is at the tail end of the Myanmar economic corridor. Which starts from Yunnan and comes down to Kyakfu, and Kyakfu port, if developed, will give an entry into Bay of Bengal, north of our Andaman and Nicobar Islands.
Right.
And in this construct, if you see the Hambantota, which is at the base of Sri Lanka, right, becomes the center piece of Chinese control. Right? That's how important Hambantota is to China. Now, what happens? The day China is able to get Djibouti, Gwadar, Kyakfu, and Hambantota as its own basis, then it is able to establish a quadrilateral of control and a very high degree of control over the Indian Ocean.
Right.
In doing this quadrilateral, it has completely disrupted the two triangles of control of, India and USA.
US have.
Right? And that's when it starts to be dreaming of a regional power, or I would say a global power. Okay, till then it is not a global power. If it cannot enter the Indian Ocean, it cannot this thing. Now what happens is, the moment it gets Kyakfu or Gwadar, right? Both these ports outflank the Malacca Straits, and it makes Andaman Nicobar Islands irrelevant.
Right.
Okay. And it poses almost a great threat to India, either Kyakfu or Gwadar. A Chinese presence there poses, and thus it nullifies the US-Indo strategic partnership to a large extent. Okay. So this is the importance of what China is trying to do. Will it be able to do? It's a $1 million question. Why it's a $1 million question at this point of time? Because Gwadar, all work has almost stopped there. Kyakfu is still in paper. The chances of it coming are far away. with the problems in Myanmar and China not making headway. And and Myanmar China relations have never allowed the CMEC to progress well.
Right.
Hambantota, we know that China has a 99-year lease to operate that port. So there is a sliver of hope that for China to develop it into a base. Okay.
Oh, yes.
So Hambantota becomes important. If China gets Hambantota at least then it has Hambantota, Djibouti and Gwadar, and it can make its presence felt in the Indian Ocean. So this is the overall strategy of China to disrupt the Indo-US cooperation and the control of these two countries over the Indian Ocean region and establish its own presence here. Domination of the Indian Ocean region is far away, right? But this is a thought which is still far away because China is yet to break out from its first island chain.
Right.
Unless it is able to break out from the first island chain, this is a very far away dream. I hope I made this part of the presentation clear.
If I can quickly explain to our viewers, when you're talking about first island chain, you're talking about the islands that do not allow, island nations which do not allow China, do not give China direct access to even the Pacific Ocean, neither to the Pacific Ocean and even to the Indian Ocean, because there are this Japan, Taiwan, Philippines, all these nations, they kind of form the first island chain, which is China is desperately trying to break. And that is one of the reasons why it wants to capture Taiwan, because this is the fall of Taiwan will also mean that China gets direct access to the the oceans.
Yeah, you're right, because the first island chain from north to south comprises of South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, Philippines and Vietnam. Right?
Yes.
Now the problem for China in that area is that the South China Sea, East China Sea and the Bohai Sea and the LOC, all the seas around China are shallow seas with limited number of passages. And big ships can't transit easily except through identified passages.
Right.
And these identified passages are also then dominated by these islands. So this island chain has to break. South China Sea islands have been already militarized by China, which they had built, and so it has got one hold there. The day it breaks, captures Taiwan, it forms its own first island chain, comprising of Hong Kong, South China Islands, South China Sea islands, Taiwan, and probably a few of the Senkakus if it captures, where it can put a base. Then it's got its own first island chain, protecting China, which means that China is unassailable directly. Right? And China is able to deploy its naval force out, and that is when it can put tremendous pressure on the Indian Ocean.
Yeah. So what exactly is it? So basically, when you are talking about this, are you talking about that, primarily that it is by default, it is basically China's area to take it. We have no, what shall I say, no way that we can defend it. What are we doing when you're talking about the Indo-US, India and US strategic partnership? What can we do to protect this area?
Well, we are already protecting this area. This area is something where China can't do any great movement as of today. See, it's not as if we have to do something. China has to do something to dislodge us.
So, what about what happens when this port in Burma, that becomes functional, and if China is able to make a base there, then that becomes a problem for us, even if it is not Hambantota perhaps.
Yeah, no. Just Krakfu will not work. It needs Krakfu, Gwadar, Djibouti and Hambantota. Without Hambantota, they'll go nowhere. That's the problem with you.
So basically, India will have to use our, leverage with Sri Lanka to ensure that Hambantota does not become a naval base for China, military base.
If I put a strategy for India, India needs to coordinate with Myanmar to ensure Krakfu never comes up. That's the first. Secondly, Hambantota has to be, objected to. Use of Hambantota by naval vessels has to be objected to consistently. And we will not have too much leeway because Sri Lanka is stuck. We have to make life difficult for China. But most importantly, more than all this, we need to give China back in a different coin, so that the larger issue with China one has to tackle. If you can give a larger message to China, and then their activities around Hambantota will automatically reduce. That's the point.
And how do you say India can give a larger message to China?
See, we are already doing that. We are already doing that, because if you see that, just 2 days back, our UN representative has taken, a large swipe at China, where she has said that, countries should respect each other's territorial integrity, X, Y, Z. We have also, we are carrying out exercises with the US in Dharamshala area, in the
Himachal Pradesh,
which is just about 100 kilometers from the LAC. Just imagine if Pakistan was to do an exercise with Sri Lanka, with China, other side of the LAC. Our natural conclusion is that they are trying to, practicing to invade us.
Right.
And China is thinking of the same.
Right.
In the same manner. So you've done that. You've taken the Dalai Lama in an IAF helicopter to Ladakh, which you have never done, and you put a big photograph across. Right. This protest on UN Wang itself is unprecedented. You've done that.
Yes.
Okay. And then in your statements, you drop that one China stance, which you always maintained.
Right.
Now that invited a very strong reaction from China. Okay, so you've done quite a bit. You banned their mobiles, all the low-end mobiles which China used to sell, which was a great market value in India, has been banned. You carried out raids against Vivo and Xiaomi and all that, again unprecedented, right? So you're conveying everything to them. And you also said you forced Chinese to establish a hotline with your own Air Force when they tried to do a few air violations across the eastern Ladakh.
Right.
So there are a lot of things we are doing. So China is quite aware of the fact that if they continue their activities in Hambantota or any activity inimical to India, they might get it back in equal measure.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much. So basically what you are saying is that, as we have also been discussing offline, it's basically about how China is now getting an Indian headache. And good
Yeah, I think so.
Good for us that we are giving them a headache. Thank you so much, Lieutenant General, for coming for my show. Looking forward to host you sometime again later. Thank you again.
Thanks a lot. Welcome.
Thank you.